Before the sun climbs above the horizon, the Sahara feels almost gentle. The sand holds the night's cold like a secret, and the air is still, suspended between worlds. Dunes stretch outward in every direction, their curves soft and endless, like waves frozen in time. There is no shoreline here, no sound of surf. Yet this is an ocean all the same, an ocean without water. As the first light spills across the desert, shadows retreat and the land awakens in silence. The Sahara does not announce itself. It simply exists, vast, ancient, and indifferent to the passage of human time. Every grain of sand has been shaped by wind older than memory, carried across distances so immense they defy comprehension. To stand here is to feel the weight of scale. The sky expands. The horizon pulls away. Your footsteps vanish almost as soon as they appear, erased by the same forces that have erased rivers, forests, and entire climates. This land has been many things before it became a desert, and it may yet become something else again. Heat will soon rise like a wall. The air will shimmer. The ground will burn. But for a brief moment, the Sahara is quiet, contemplative, almost tender. It feels less like a place and more like a presence, watching, waiting. This is a landscape that strips life to its essence. No excess, no forgiveness, only endurance. The Sahara is not empty. It is full of time, full of memory, full of stories written in stone, sand, and sky. And to cross it, whether with camel caravans or modern machines, is to enter a realm where nature speaks in extremes, and humanity is reminded how small it truly is. The Sahara Desert stretches across North Africa like a colossal scar carved by time. Covering nearly 9 million square kilometers, it spans from the Atlantic Ocean in the west to the Red Sea in the east, crossing more than a dozen modern nations. It is the largest hot desert on Earth, and one of the most misunderstood. Despite popular imagination, the Sahara is not a single sea of sand. In fact, towering dunes, known as ergs, make up only a fraction of its surface. Much of the desert consists of vast gravel plains called regs, where stones polished by wind form hard, barren expanses. Elsewhere, ancient bedrock lies exposed, sculpted into arches, pillars, and labyrinths by millions of years of erosion. Rising above these plains are dramatic mountain ranges. The Tibesti Mountains in Chad, the Ahagar in Algeria, and the Ayer Mountains in Niger break the flatness of the desert, some peaks reaching over 3,000 meters high. These highlands capture slightly more rainfall than the surrounding lowlands, creating isolated refuges for life, ecological islands in a sea of aridity. Yet the most astonishing truth about the Sahara is this: it was not always a desert. Geological and archaeological evidence reveals a radically different past. During periods known as the African humid periods, driven by shifts in Earth's orbit and axial tilt, the Sahara transformed into a green landscape. Monsoon rains pushed far north, feeding rivers, lakes, and wetlands. What is now barren sand once supported grasslands, forests, and abundant wildlife. Ancient rock art, carved deep within today's desert, depicts giraffes, hippos, crocodiles, and cattle, animals that could never survive here now. Beneath the sand lie fossilized river systems, dried lake beds, and vast underground aquifers, ghosts of a wetter world preserved beneath the surface. Around 5,000 to 7,000 years ago, the climate began to shift again. As monsoon systems weakened, rainfall retreated southward. Vegetation died back. Soil eroded. Winds took control. Gradually, inexorably, the Sahara emerged. But the desert is not fixed in place. It expands and contracts over long time scales, responding to natural climate cycles. Even today, its southern boundary, the Sahel, is a zone of constant tension between desert and savanna, advancing and retreating with rainfall patterns and human activity. Wind remains the Sahara's primary architect. It lifts fine particles into the atmosphere, sculpts dunes that migrate slowly across the land, and polishes stone until it gleams. Over thousands of years, these invisible forces have shaped one of the most formidable landscapes on Earth. The Sahara is not merely a place where life struggles, it is a monument to planetary change, a reminder that Earth itself is restless, forever reshaping its surface, indifferent to borders, civilizations, or memory. The Sahara is ruled by the sun. For most of the year, high-pressure systems settle over North Africa, suppressing cloud formation and trapping heat near the surface. Under this relentless dome of clear skies, the desert absorbs solar energy by day and releases it just as quickly at night, creating some of the most extreme temperature swings on the planet. Daytime temperatures frequently soar beyond 45 degrees Celsius, and in some regions, the ground itself becomes hot enough to burn exposed skin within seconds. Yet after sunset, the heat vanishes with astonishing speed. With little moisture in the air to retain warmth, nighttime temperatures can plunge toward freezing, turning scorching days into bitterly cold nights. Survival in the Sahara demands constant adjustment. Rainfall is not only scarce, it is unpredictable. Vast areas of the desert receive less than 25 millimeters of rain per year, and some years pass without a single measurable drop. When rain does arrive, it often comes suddenly and violently. Thunderstorms unleash torrents onto hardened ground unable to absorb water, triggering flash floods that roar through dry riverbeds before disappearing just as quickly. Wind is the desert's other great force. Powerful air currents shape the Sahara's surface, lifting sand into massive dunes and carving exposed rock into sharp-edged forms. Seasonal winds, such as the harmattan, sweep southward, carrying fine Saharan dust across West Africa and out over the Atlantic Ocean. This dust can travel thousands of kilometers, dimming skies, affecting air quality, and even influencing hurricane formation across the ocean. Occasionally, the Sahara unleashes its most dramatic displays, sandstorms so vast they can be seen from space. Walls of dust rise hundreds of meters high, swallowing landscapes and reducing daylight to darkness. In these moments, the desert feels alive, moving, breathing, asserting its power. Mirages shimmer across the horizon, bending light and teasing the human mind with illusions of water and distant cities. The Sahara's climate does not merely challenge the body, it challenges perception itself. Here, weather is not background. It is the dominant force, shaping land, life, and human behavior with uncompromising authority. At first glance, the Sahara appears empty, a vast silence stretched across stone and sand. But life has learned to hide here, to wait, and to endure. Ecosystems in the Sahara are defined by scarcity. Water is the rarest currency, and every living thing is adapted to conserve it. Life clusters around oases, underground springs, and seasonal riverbeds known as wadis. These fragile habitats become lifelines, supporting plants, animals, and human communities alike. Many desert organisms avoid the sun entirely. Nocturnal animals emerge only after dark, when temperatures fall and evaporation slows. Others burrow beneath the surface, where sand and soil offer insulation from heat and cold. Some species enter prolonged states of dormancy, slowing their metabolism to survive months or even years without food or water. Insects and microorganisms play an outsized role in these ecosystems. After rare rainfall, dormant eggs hatch almost instantly, and the desert briefly comes alive with movement. Plants germinate, insects swarm, and birds arrive from distant regions, drawn by the sudden abundance. Then, just as quickly, the water vanishes, and life retreats once more into waiting. These cycles are brief but powerful. The Sahara operates on patience rather than permanence. Even in the harshest regions, life persists through specialization. Roots grow deep to reach hidden moisture. Bodies evolve to minimize water loss. Behaviors are tuned to precise windows of opportunity. Nothing here is wasted. Humans, too, are part of this ecosystem. Nomadic groups have long followed seasonal patterns, moving with the availability of grazing and water. Their knowledge, passed orally across generations, represents one of the most refined survival systems ever developed. The Sahara's ecosystems may be sparse, but they are not fragile in the conventional sense. They are resilient, shaped by cycles of abundance and absence. They remind us that life does not require comfort. It requires balance, timing, and respect for limits. In the Sahara, survival is not a struggle against nature. It is a quiet negotiation with it, renewed each day beneath an unforgiving sky. Against all expectations, the Sahara is alive. Its life does not announce itself loudly or continuously. Instead, it exists in fragments, scattered, specialized, and astonishingly resilient. Every plant and animal that survives here is the result of millions of years of adaptation to heat, thirst, and unpredictability. Vegetation in the Sahara is sparse but strategic. Most plants grow only where water can be reached, along dry riverbeds, near oases, or in highland regions that capture rare rainfall. Acacia trees spread wide canopies that provide shade and reduce ground temperatures, while their roots plunge deep in search of groundwater. Date palms, iconic symbols of desert life, anchor oasis ecosystems, offering food, shelter, and stability to both humans and animals. Many desert plants have evolved waxy coatings, reduced leaf surfaces, or spines instead of leaves, minimizing water loss under the relentless sun. Others lie dormant as seeds for years, waiting patiently beneath the sand. When rain finally falls, the desert erupts with brief but spectacular blooms, wildflowers coloring the dunes in purples, yellows, and whites before vanishing once again into dust. Animal life in the Sahara is equally remarkable. The dromedary camel, with its single hump of stored fat, stands as the ultimate symbol of desert survival. It can tolerate extreme dehydration, regulate its body temperature, and travel vast distances across open terrain. Addax antelope, now critically endangered, can live without drinking water at all, extracting moisture from desert plants and producing highly concentrated urine to conserve fluids. Smaller mammals, such as fennec foxes and jerboas, rely on nocturnal habits and burrowing lifestyles. Their large ears help dissipate heat, while pale fur reflects sunlight. Reptiles, snakes, lizards, and geckos, thrive by absorbing warmth efficiently and remaining active during cooler hours. Birds cross the Sahara in epic migrations, using oases as vital resting points. Insects, often overlooked, form the foundation of desert food webs, emerging rapidly after rainfall to exploit fleeting opportunities. In the Sahara, survival is never accidental. It is earned through precision, restraint, and adaptation. For thousands of years, the Sahara has shaped human culture as profoundly as any river or forest. To those who live within it, the desert is not a void. It is a teacher. Nomadic peoples such as the Tuareg, Berbers, and Tubu have developed ways of life perfectly attuned to the rhythms of the desert. Mobility is essential. Families move with the seasons, following grazing routes known only through memory and oral tradition. Water sources are guarded knowledge, passed down like sacred inheritance. The desert demands cooperation. Hospitality is not a courtesy, it is survival. A traveler offered water and shelter is not a stranger, but a fellow human facing the same unforgiving landscape. The Sahara is deeply spiritual. Its vast silence invites reflection, humility, and reverence. Many desert cultures view the land as a living force, harsh but honest. In this environment, belief systems emphasize endurance, patience, and respect for unseen powers. The stars become guides, the wind a messenger, the dunes a map written in motion. Poetry, music, and storytelling thrive in the absence of written records. Songs recount journeys, losses, and triumphs over sand and distance. Oral history preserves roots, laws, and wisdom older than many modern nations. Clothing, architecture, and social structure all reflect adaptation to the desert. Flowing garments protect against heat and sand. Tents and mud brick homes are designed to breathe. Even time is perceived differently, measured not by clocks but by sun, season, and necessity. For outsiders, the Sahara has often symbolized danger or emptiness. For those who belong to it, the desert represents identity. It is a place where material excess disappears and values are distilled to essentials: family, honor, endurance. The Sahara does not allow domination. It allows coexistence. And in learning to live with the desert rather than against it, its people have forged cultures defined not by what they possess, but by what they understand. For much of human history, the Sahara was not a barrier, it was a bridge. Long before modern borders divided Africa, vast networks of trans-Saharan trade routes stitched together the Mediterranean world and sub-Saharan Africa. Across the dunes moved camel caravans, sometimes thousands of animals long, traveling for weeks or months through open desert. Their paths were guided not by maps, but by stars, memory, and generations of accumulated knowledge. The introduction of the camel around the first millennium BCE transformed the Sahara into a corridor of exchange. With its unmatched endurance, the camel made possible the movement of heavy goods across immense distances. Gold from the forests of West Africa traveled north. Salt from Saharan mines, more valuable than gold in some eras, moved south. Ivory, slaves, textiles, manuscripts, and ideas flowed alongside them. At the heart of these routes rose powerful cities and kingdoms. Timbuktu, Gao, and Jenné became legendary centers of commerce, scholarship, and culture. Far from being isolated, these cities connected Africa to the wider Islamic world, Europe, and the Middle East. Libraries flourished. Universities attracted scholars from across continents. The Sahara, often imagined as empty, became a highway of knowledge. Empires such as Ghana, Mali, and Songhai drew their wealth and influence from mastery of desert trade. Control of caravan routes meant control of power. Kings understood the desert not as an enemy, but as a system to be navigated. Exploration of the Sahara by outsiders was far more perilous. Ancient Romans ventured only to its edges. Medieval European travelers relied heavily on local guides, and many never returned. The desert swallowed arrogance quickly. Those who survived often spoke of hallucinations, disorientation, and the crushing weight of distance. Yet despite its dangers, the Sahara never fully closed itself. It remained a space of encounter, where languages mixed, religions spread, and cultures merged under the same unforgiving sun. Today, the Sahara faces pressures unlike any in its long history. Natural climate cycles have always caused the desert to expand and contract, but human activity is now accelerating change at its margins. Overgrazing, deforestation, and unsustainable agriculture weaken fragile soils, making them vulnerable to erosion. As vegetation disappears, the land loses its ability to retain moisture, pushing arid conditions farther south into the Sahel. Climate change compounds these stresses. Rising global temperatures intensify heat extremes, while shifting rainfall patterns increase uncertainty for both ecosystems and human communities. Droughts become longer and more severe. When rain does fall, it is often too intense, washing away topsoil rather than nourishing it. For communities living at the desert's edge, these changes threaten food security, livelihoods, and cultural continuity. Traditional nomadic routes are disrupted. Pastures vanish. Competition over water increases. The Sahara itself is not advancing like an invading army, but its influence is spreading through desertification, the gradual degradation of once productive land. This process blurs the line between natural desert and human-made crisis. Efforts to combat desertification focus on restoring vegetation, managing grazing, and supporting sustainable land use. Projects such as reforestation belts and water harvesting systems aim to slow the desert's reach. Just as important is the preservation of indigenous knowledge, time-tested strategies for living with aridity rather than fighting it. The Sahara has endured immense climate shifts before. Whether human societies at its edge can adapt with equal resilience remains one of the defining environmental challenges of our time. Protecting the Sahara does not mean transforming it. It means understanding it. Unlike forests or wetlands, deserts are often overlooked in conservation efforts, dismissed as empty or unproductive. Yet the Sahara is a finely balanced system, and disturbing that balance, especially at its fragile edges, can have consequences far beyond the desert itself. One of the most ambitious initiatives shaping the Sahara's future is the Great Green Wall, a transcontinental effort stretching across the Sahel. Its goal is not to stop the desert, but to stabilize the land where desert and savanna meet. By planting drought-resistant trees, restoring soils, and supporting sustainable agriculture, the project aims to reduce erosion, improve food security, and strengthen local resilience. Conservation in the Sahara also means protecting oases, which function as biological and cultural lifelines. Over-extraction of groundwater threatens these ancient systems, many of which rely on fossil aquifers that cannot be quickly replenished. Sustainable water management, combining traditional techniques with modern science, is critical to their survival. Wildlife conservation faces equally complex challenges. Species adapted to extreme environments are often highly sensitive to disruption. Protecting migration corridors, reducing poaching, and maintaining intact habitats across national borders require cooperation on a continental scale. Equally important is the preservation of human knowledge. Nomadic cultures possess an intimate understanding of desert ecosystems, refined over centuries. Their practices, rotational grazing, seasonal movement, and respect for natural limits, offer valuable lessons for sustainable living in arid regions. The future of the Sahara will not be decided by a single solution. It will be shaped by countless local choices, guided by humility and long-term thinking. The desert does not need saving from itself, but humanity must learn how to live responsibly alongside it. As night falls, the Sahara exhales. The heat of the day fades into cool sand, and the sky opens into a universe of stars. With no city lights to compete, constellations burn bright, just as they did for ancient travelers who crossed this land, guided only by memory and faith. In this silence, the desert reveals its true nature. The Sahara is not a place of absence. It is a place of endurance. It has witnessed rivers rise and vanish, forests bloom and wither, empires ascend and disappear. Human footsteps have crossed it for millennia, some cautious, some bold, some never returning. What remains is not conquest, but continuity. The wind still moves the dunes. Life still waits patiently beneath the sand. Stories are still carried in songs, stars, and stone. The desert outlasts every certainty we bring into it. To stand in the Sahara is to confront time itself, to recognize that Earth does not exist for human comfort, but for balance. In its vastness, the desert asks nothing of us except respect. And in its silence, it offers something rare: perspective. The Sahara endures, and in learning to listen, so might we.